for months, for weeks, my DMs have been getting filled up. Quinny, you've got to get the legend, the man, the myth that is Sorare Japan on the channel to go through some J-League action. And we've managed to do it. We've managed to pay the licensing fee to the agency to get him on board. And we're going to be going through a crash course of the J-League in terms of teams, what we're looking at for the season ahead, all that kind of good stuff. Sorare Japan Sama, as I'm going to call you. Thanks a lot for joining us, my man.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you for finally having me on. It's going to be a pleasure. I'm going to be very dangerous because you haven't given me a script or anything. So I'm just going to talk and talk. And well, it's 11:20 p.m. here right now, but I hope to be asleep by 4.
I think we'll have just enough time for that. I think just about. So for myself, Japan Sama, as I was saying this to you before we came on. But when the J League first came on to Sorare, I was really keen to get involved and kind of learn a bit more about a new league and all the rest of it. And for that, what was it been, the 2021 season? I felt like I had a good kind of grasp of what was going on. I followed a few clubs, followed a few players. That was fun and interesting. But last season, I fell off the wagon. I had no idea, other than the top teams, kind of what was going on. I only had about half a dozen cards that were interesting. But this year, I need that to go back to type. I need to know exactly what's going on, who's the riders and runners, who's the heavy hitters, who's the ones that we're looking at. And for me, and I'm sure a lot of viewers at home as well, it's all well and good talking about players. We can go through stats and L5s and all that caper. But what I'm always more interested in is the kind of dynamics of what's going on. The big powerhouse clubs, the clubs that have got the academy, the cool manager, the newly promoted team, all that kind of jazz. So that's what we're going to attempt to try and get out of you without a script, okay? So let me start off with this, because this should be fun, right? When I was growing up, one of the very first Japanese teams I became aware of or familiar with is Jublio Iwata, because they got to a Club World Cup one year. I think they played Man United or something. That's how I know them. They have returned. They have got promoted last year. They're in J1. And what I would consider to be one of the bigger clubs in Japan historically, me being an outsider, it's nice to see them back in the top flight. What do you think about Jublio?
Well, look forward to seeing them in J2 next year.
That bad?
They were, as you say, that historically they are a very, very famous team. 1993, when the J League started, there were 10 clubs. We call them the original 10. And although they were quite a famous team that had won the Japan Soccer League and various other things, just before the J League started, they had one bad season, and they weren't actually considered for the J League. So it was quite a shock. But they were definitely in, and 1 year later they won the nascent JFL, the JSL, but below the J League, and they were promoted or added to the J1 as it was then, to become the 11th team in 1994. And they were quite mega. I mean, people have heard of Tokyo Verdi at the moment, or originally Yomiuri Verdi, and then they became Kawasaki and Verdi Kawasaki. The original, they're a bit like the Japanese baseball teams doing a franchise, I think. But it doesn't happen very often in soccer. But Tokyo Verdi, who had a player called Kazuyoshi Miura, who is still playing right now. He's actually just dropped. He's just dropped out of the league into the JFL to join his brother, who's a manager.
Oh, cool.
His older brother, a manager. I think he's about a couple of years older. And Kazu has hit 55, has he? I'm not sure, but yeah, Kazu was there at the Tokyo Verdi, but then they won the first 2 years. But then Jubilee came along, and 1997 to 2003, Jubilee were never out of the top 2. 6 or 7 seasons there. They won the championship 3 times. They won the Empress Cup. They won the League Cup, where it was called the Nabisco Cup then, because you had to be crackers to watch it. And they won the Asian Champions League as well. And then basically that was it. That was the glory days. And then they finished 5th or 6th a couple of times after that. And then, I mean, they've only been in J2 a couple of years, and I think they were in J2 once before. So, but yeah, they're the typical, I don't know, Middlesbrough, Birmingham City, whatever you want to call the sleeping giant. So, but the current squad, I mean, Yasuhito Endo is absolute legend in Japan. Spent 20 years at Gamba Osaka. Good friend of mine. I love the guy, and he's very, very nice considering he's a superstar. But he's 42. Oi, the defender, centre back, he's, I believe, 36, 37.
Yep.
And they've got quite a few, shall we say, the polite word would be journeymen. I think, and they don't really have a star. I mean, obviously Endo's a star, but at 42, how long can that star shine? Will it become a black hole? Oh, but Dunga, I mean, for those who don't know, Brazilian legend Dunga was the driving force behind Jubilee in that glory years that they had.
Oh, did he play for them in that spell? I didn't realise that.
Yep, he played for them, and then he came back as manager. Reasonably successful considering what they'd been like before he joined here. He sort of G'd up the team a bit too. But these days, as you say, they've been in J2. They struggle. They're in the shadow of the Shimizu S-Pulse, who are their neighbours and the local rivals.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So what's happening? Well, now they've got, as I said, all these journeymen, but they've got Yuto Suzuki, who seems to be the star, and he's actually the epitome of journeyman. I mean, he's played for Kawasaki Frontale and Gamba Osaka without much success. And he's dropped to Jubilee and dropped to J2. And I think he scored 15, 20 goals last year. And he's got 4 or 5 already this season. I think as we speak, the new auctions came out for 2022 cards, and I had a quick look at his price, and just in case people hadn't jumped on the bandwagon yet, but they have, and it's high up there. And I think he'll be the guy that does it. They also have Sugimoto Kenyu and Reo Jermaine up front. So those two, they're reasonable goal scorers. And I think Jermaine was in the Universiade, as we call it over here, the Asian University Championships, and played for Japan. Nice. And was quite star, but he's failed to live up to his original promise. But Sugimoto is, just for want of a better word, a wastrel donkey. He's that bad. He had a good season at Cerezo, and suddenly thought that he could, go to the Premier League or the Bundesliga or something, and demanded a move. This is from what I hear here. And it didn't come through, and he sort of pulled a strop and didn't play very well for the next year. And then he got loaned out to Urawa Reds and Yokohama F Marinos, and now he's loaned out from, I think this gets complicated now, because I think he belongs to Marinos. He was loaned out to Reds last year or whatever, but now he's still on loan from somewhere, and he's not even starting so often. He's one of those players. He had some talent, but then he realized that he had the talent, and so he thought he could do better, and he didn't. Yeah. So, I'm sure we can find someone in the Scottish League like that too, right?
Tons of them. No, that's a bit disappointing for the old Jublio. I know when I heard you on John Ellis's video talking about Jublio, I said that before we came on, that you didn't have high hopes for their season, and they have started pretty terribly. You can see the 9 goals in the opening 5 games, only registering 1 win with 2 losses. So they're definitely not fighting up there. Now, I think probably one of the parts of the J League I found really surprising when the J League came on was how dominant Kawasaki Frontale are. Because as much as I was not a J League aficionado prior to them being on Sorare or whatever, I had never, ever heard of Kawasaki Frontale in my puff. But I'd heard of like Gamba Osaka, Tokyo, Jublio, maybe one other. Who did Yokohama? I'd known about Yokohama because of Nakamura. And maybe one other one. But Kawasaki Frontale was a team I'd never heard of before, had no idea they existed, and they seemed to be imperious. Now, coming into this season, I was thinking maybe that imperial kind of vibe that they've got of all seeing on conquering might be diminishing with the amount of transfers out that they've had over the last 2 windows. But they've started the season pretty clever, haven't they?
Well, to play for Kawasaki, you got to have a good engine, apparently. So, oh, yeah. Was it that bad? Was it that bad? You didn't even...
I didn't get it.
Too slow. So that's one of the reasons that most people around the world actually know how to pronounce their name as well. Of course, it's Kawasaki. The funny thing about Kawasaki Frontale is they don't really have a history. In fact, they only were founded, I think, and entered the league in 1999, whereas most of the teams in the league now, and certainly around that time, were all long-established teams. But they came out of companies. The only team in the original 10 that was not from a long-established company was Shimizu S-Pulse, who were founded basically by a bunch of local people and local businesses, and they decided to form a team. And long story that we can get into sometime if you like. But for example, Gamba Osaka was Matsushita Denki, which is Panasonic, and they still have a name on the front of the shirts. Kashiwa Reysol was Hitachi. They still also have on some of their training gear, they've got Hitachi. Urawa Reds is Mitsubishi.
Cool.
For example, Cerezo Osaka is Yanmar, Nagoya Grampus is Toyota, Yokohama F Marinos is Nissan, and if you go back to 1993 and thereabouts, those names were on the badges and on the front of the shirts. Kashima Antlers was Sumitomo Metals. And eventually, I think around, well, officially when the J League started, they really didn't want teams to have the company name in there. But you know, until that time, people were still called Gamba Panasonic. They really wanted to be called Gamba Panasonic and that kind of thing. But it was like, keep the business out of, you know, out of the names. As an aside, the only team that still has their name in the name that they use now is the shirt that I'm wearing. Checking out the Sega, by the way. Jeff United Ichihara was Jeff United with JEF was JR East Furukawa Railways. And now Jeff are still using Jeff. So technically, they've still got the original name in there. And the fact that they spell Jeff all 3 capital letters instead of a small E and a small F is extra sneaky. So Jeff has still actually got the company name in there. You know, I digress, but you know, this kind of thing I like to tell people, and you probably, I would think maybe 2 or 3 of your 73,000 viewers we know about that, right? So. But yes, so Kawasaki Frontale, as to get back to my original point, were quite a recent team, 1999 or so, and they never really got anywhere. And but they are famous for giving a certain player called Hulk his start in to the top.
I didn't realize that.
The Hulk played for Contadole Sapporo, Tokyo, what were they called then? Tokyo Verdi. They would have been called Verdi Kawasaki, and Kawasaki Frontale. He played for 3 Japanese teams when he was, you know, very young, 19, 20, 21, I think. Most of the Japanese teams have imports that, let's face it, they probably wouldn't be able to play in the reserves of the Scottish Premier League or whatever it's called these days. You know, well, you know, this is Japan. I mean, let's take the Brazilians. We get the Japanese. Have got to first. You get the top guys, the Premier League and Spanish. You know, the top 5 leagues. Then they get the rest of Europe. Then of course they have the whatever the top division is called in Brazil. Then we have the Arab money taking them as well. So by the time we trickles down to Japan, we're getting 4th, 5th, 6th rate people, which is sad. In the odd time that we get someone like Hulk, who was a nobody, of course, but blossomed big time, is great. And that happens now and again if we're lucky.
Well, on that note, what do you think about the boy Lincoln?
He came with a lot of promise. He's also, I think, in the top 5 of the paid players in Japan right now, which is, you know, quite amazing for me because he hasn't done anything yet. He hasn't proven himself, but he was apparently wanted by a lot of teams around the world.
Yeah.
So
like 2 or 3 years ago, he was the biggest thing coming out of Brazil. 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was told, you know, as not following that kind of thing. But yeah, and he's had a lot of injuries. So at the moment, Vissel Kobe are without Muto, who people won't even know yet because he hasn't been on Sorare. But he played for Japan and just came back.
Newcastle?
Exactly. Well, well, Newcastle reserves anyway. But yeah, Yoshinori Muto was pretty good. He did okay in Germany. Osaka also came back from Germany. So Japan, Vissel Kobe are basically pulling out all the, well, I was going to say ex-international, but no, current internationals. I mean, they're signing current internationals. They've just signed Kento Hashimoto for 3 months from Rostov in Moscow. Sorry, in Russia. I don't know if it's in Moscow, because they're all, you know, the players over there are allowed 3 months off to go somewhere. And now Vissel Kobe have lost Sergi Samper for the season.
I heard that.
Muto for a couple months more, and various other. Daiju Sasaki, you might well have played in the middle of midfield, is also gone for 2 months with a hamstring now, just as Vissel are about to hit the ACL. So I'm digressing again, but Lincoln, this means that Lincoln now has his chance, you know, to get in there. And I think Lincoln is one of, I think, 3 players in Japan in their history that have been named after US presidents.
You must have a Washington in there then.
Yes.
Yeah, there must be a Washington and Lincoln. Who could the other one be? Brazil. Kennedy.
Oh, actually, yeah. Well, Kennedy was actually an Australian player. So,
Oh,
but yes, we've had a Kennedy, and I think we've had a Clinton.
oh, Clinton, of course. It's funny,
Yeah.
the amount of Brazilians that came out with these kind of names, you know, it's to like abbreviate their big long Portuguese names. It's quite funny, but it's funny how you've had presidents. Vissel,
Do Nascimento Pele.
yeah, that's it, exactly. Same with Ronaldo, it's all the Nascimentos and Paul Sousas and everything. But I did notice that Kobe, before, like, I think it was last night when I was kind of thinking ahead to today, Kobe are sitting third bottom after 7 games, have not registered a win yet. And, you know, the injury, you know, the tail of the tape you've just given me there kind of lends some information towards that, I suppose.
And getting back to them, by the way, sorry, you know, you were asking why.
That's where we started.
I did warn you, you know, I've got no script, I'm dangerous. So Kawasaki Frontale, they had a great nursery, for want of a better word, you know, youth setup. Obviously, it's been paying dividends. But they had a manager who was, to be kind to him, he was a serial silver medalist, shall we say.
Okay.
I think they entered like 8 or 9 cup finals and didn't win one until 5 years ago. They came second in the league a couple of times. They just never seemed to be able to win anything. And when he left and his assistant was promoted, Mr. Oniki has since won, I think, 4 in 5, is it? And despite the fact that, well, if we only go back 2 seasons, they lost a guy called Morita, Hidemasa Morita, to Portugal, an excellent player.
Yeah.
And then we obviously, since Sorare began, people know much better. Ao Tanaka has gone to Germany. Mitoma is in Brighton via Belgium. I really hope, I don't follow the Premier League, but I'm hoping Brighton stay in the Premier League because I believe he will be there next year because that's who he belongs to.
Yeah.
So Hatate is at Celtic, of course. So
Hatate.
Hatate. Yeah, Reo. So going off tangent again, Japanese names. Let's teach people how to say these Japanese names. Okay.
Well, what I was going to say is when you said Tanaka's first name, I was going to actually get you to repeat that because I've been calling him Ao, which is also wrong. So it's Ao?
It's Ao.
Ao.
Ao. It's like, imagine you're James Brown and you get, Ao, Ao.
Ao, Tanaka.
Well, the key, it's a very unusual first name, of course, because the key in Japan is basically a syllable is 2 letters and one is a vowel and one is a consonant. Basically, that is it. Nakamura, Tanaka, you know, Sugi, Tani, even Higashiguchi. I mean, basically, every vowel is a separate sound.
Yep.
And every consonant, every pair is a separate sound, but every vowel is sounded.
No silence.
So there's no silent. So except for the very unusual, now and again, you'll get a sneaky U in there, which is basically just makes the O longer. It's not ow, but it's O.
Got you.
So for example, well, as I said, Tanaka, Nakamura. It's not Shunsuke Nakamura. It's Shunsuke Nakamura. Yeah, I mean, so Ao is a very unusual name with only 2, but you have to sound both the A and the O, but all the vowels are also short. There are no long vowels.
Yeah.
So everybody thinks, you know, like Tanaka, Hideguchi, Okubo, Nakamura, you know? But no, everyone is short. So Hatate, not Hatate, Hatate, Maeda.
Furuhashi.
And so Ao is basically, you say the A and the O, but you say Ao. So it's Ao. So Ao. So yeah, that's how to. So Kawasaki, Kashima, Urawa, Fukuoka, Cerezo. So yeah. So back to work. Sorry. Well,
sorry. I love it. So I was going to ask you anyway because I've been saying Ao Tanaka and Reo Hatate and Kyogo Furuhashi and Shunsuke Nakamura. Now I know it's all blatantly wrong. Let's get into all the giveaway stuff before I let you go. I'm still doing monthly giveaways and I'm making it easier to enter. If you want to be entered to win this month's prize or any future giveaways here at the channel, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button, you need to be a subscriber to enter, then leave a comment down below. Each month, a random comment from a random video will be selected as the winner, so the more videos you leave a comment on, the better the chance you've got of winning any of my giveaways. All the winners are announced at the end of videos the same way as we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. As always guys, if you've enjoyed the video today, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. On screen now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.